Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. You guys are listening to Down the Rabbit Hole podcast. I have here a very special guest with me today. I am very fascinated. I saw your profile on matchmaker.fm. It was really interesting because like a lot of talking points and it just your story. I want to know all about it and how you got here. And if you want to just let everyone know who you are, let's start there. Yeah.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Dominique D'Vita, and I've been a nurse for over 30 years. And then Tantra changed my life and took me down a major rabbit hole. And I'm now also a trauma informed master coach in addition to a Tantra educator. So, yeah. And the reason I have so many topics is I've gone down lots of different rabbit holes. So I love having these conversations. So I'm
Well,
excited to share more.
and it's awesome because you're just not a one trick pony here. Like I'm just going down the list and it just okay, first of all, 30 years as an RN, that's props. Like how, why, and are you still involved in the game?
Great question. It actually yesterday I celebrated 4 years of going full time as a coach and not working as a
Congrats.
nurse anymore. Yes. So I'm from Texas, and then I did travel nursing in Los Angeles and then for 6 years, and in San Francisco, sorry, for 6 years. And I thought I would never come back to Texas, but all the fun things that happened in 2020. I was on the front lines as a nurse for the first 9 months during all of that. And I was working part time as a coach and as a nurse part time. And I was like, I think it's time for me to just go all in with my coaching. I've had enough of this because of all the wildness and things that were happening that were so unfortunate. So I came back to Texas, and I arrived back in Austin, Texas, 4 years ago yesterday. So
And
yeah.
okay, I you don't have much of an accent though, but like if you because you told me I would have never known, but like I feel like maybe I'm just making this up in my head, but I can hear it, you know?
Yeah, my accent was so bad before I moved to California that people in Texas would tease me because my accent was so thick. I remember my older sister moved to California many years before I did, and I was living at home and still at home with my mom when I was in high school, and she was older than me. She called back and talk to my mom, and I answered the phone, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you sound like shit. No wonder everyone makes fun of me." You know what I mean? She could because she could pick up on the accent. And then I think, living in California, I pick up on accents so easily that when I returned and I was living in California, then it changed
Uh-huh.
and it started to disappear. And then when I got back in Texas, it started coming back through. So yeah,
Mm.
it's been a journey. But then for a while when I was in California, I started to miss it a little bit. So I think you start to appreciate all the aspects of ourselves, instead of
Which it's funny.
um,
It's funny that you mentioned that, like being on the front line like that, because so you were nurse 2020. That almost feels like a weird fever dream at that time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know
yes.
I didn't feel essential at the time. I still don't feel essential, but here we, you know what I'm saying? But like, you were when it was craziest. So 30 years. So like, did you always know since you were young that you wanted to help people? Because even as like an RN to now doing your coaching, you're you're not a selfish person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you. That also comes from having had a childhood where my mother was an alcoholic. And I
Mm.
think that's really how that happened is that when you're a child of an alcoholic, you have codependent patterns. So you get so used to being the caretaker for other people. So I noticed in the profession of nursing that there were very many dysfunctional nurses because I feel like a lot of them have come from these codependent patterns as well. And it's kind of all that they know. So my focus has always been more about caring for others than myself. And with Tantra, I started to do my self love journey and give that care and that attention back to myself. But I became a nurse when I was 19.
Oh my
Initially, I
gosh,
was an
yeah.
LVN, and then I continued with school. And the reason I did is I was fascinated with everything that had to do with the heart, everything cardiac. I started out working in a cardiac intensive care unit and the cardiac cath lab. And then I got training where I could take the role of an assisting surgeon, and I would even assist with open heart surgery. So if any surgery required two surgeons, I've helped with neurosurgery, robotic surgeries, all kinds of things. And it wasn't until I was 44 that I discovered Tantra when I was in Los Angeles and had this experience where I had what we would call like a Kundalini awakening. And with that, I realized, wow, Tantra, these are the tools that really open people's hearts, because I was so guarded in my heart because I'd had childhood wounds and unhealthy relationship dynamics. Because when you have unhealthy relationship patterns with your parents and alcoholism, things like that, you don't learn boundaries and you end up in equally dysfunctional relationships as an adult. And so I was like, wow, Tantra are the tools that really opened up my heart and started my healing journey. So that's why I decided I want to help people more before they get to the hospital and before they're having so much illness because of chronic stress and disease is just dis-ease. It's just having this stuck or trapped emotions and traumas that we have in our body that we keep suppressing and ignoring and trying to silence with either medications or other substances. And we're not paying attention to where our body and our soul really wants us to pay attention to what's going on. But in this world we live in, we're, like, oh, don't think about that. And don't even think too much about yourself. Just how much can you do for other people? Or what are you accomplishing? How much are you doing instead of how are we actually being? And then Tantra helped me realize I'm actually a human being, not a human doing. Right. So help me bring
They're
some
different,
balance.
right?
Much, yeah, vastly different,
Okay.
vastly different.
Because like, okay, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in or and I've heard this a couple of times, but at least to properly help people, don't you have to help yourself first, right?
Exactly.
So you were mentioning that you had that, and you said that word, but I'm like ghetto as hell. I say that oh shit moment, and that's
Yeah.
that moment where that where you realize what you're trying to accomplish or what your goals are, and the bigger picture basically of your whole life. Um, can you talk to me more about how that happened? Because most people think like just general like you're an RN, you did all this. That's the fulfillment. But somewhere along the line, you said, "Nah, fuck that. I want more."
Yeah, exactly. Working also as a critical care nurse and, working with people and taking care of people in times in their life where they're having the most pain, the most suffering, stress, fear, and caring for people that are facing the end of their lives and sharing their regrets with me, and just knowing that there's nothing more that I could really do to help them. And it would just break my heart to see them, dying with regrets. And
Hmm.
that's what made me really be passionate about being a coach. Because, like, okay, now I have these tools. Because first I started using these things to change things within myself. And I thought, wow, I could really help people so that when they do take their last breath, that they're hopefully not having the regrets, because they'll learn to live life from a place of love instead of fear. Because that's what Tantra helped me to be able to do. And I also noticed that in a lot of the patients that I had, if they had cancers or certain diseases, the number one cause of disease is stress, elevated cortisol levels. And also noticing that a lot of people have sensed that they had a lot of shame and they were really repressing who they were and dimming their light, not shining their light, like playing small and not really being their truest, fullest expression of themselves. And I notice that in the medical field, we don't address those things. We don't address that, oh, I'm looking at their chart and they have cancer or heart disease or whatever else is happening. But if I look back, also, it'll say that they've had a history of depression, that they had a history of abuse or trauma, and people don't get the care for those things. And then, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and it's our body is storing these memories. And our body is really, when we're having symptoms, our body's trying to communicate to us so that we'll give ourselves attention. But we haven't been taught how to pay attention to the wisdom of our bodies and to really care for ourselves in those ways. And even sometimes with women, I could sense some of the older generation of patients that I would care for, that they had a lot of shame or they didn't feel like they were in their full sensual essence. They were like very shut down, or maybe if their husband had already passed, or if they were married, it felt like they were probably in a sexless marriage. Like that that juiciness of them in their lives was just not there. It was
And
like flatlined, right? And then I would notice too that a lot of times they were having challenges with their reproductive system, because I want you to think of an energy, think of a river or a body of water. And when a body
okay,
of water is just still, think of like a swamp, and it's just still, and it has the scum and all the filth on the top. And that's just a great place for disease to grow,
fair.
you know. And then I want you to think of a body of water with a river racing through it. It's
Oh,
very healthy,
clean, healthy. Yeah.
right? Vibrant. That is the way our energy flows through our body. And in Tantra, it talks about the chakras or the energy centers. And, you can see here that I have this diagram of the chakras behind me, but we have these energy centers in our body. And if our sacral chakra, which is below our belly button, if that one is connected to our reproductive system and to our creative life force energy, and actually the energy that brought us into existence. But because there's so much shame in society around sexual energy, we repress it or stuff it down or feel shame about it, right? And we're literally disconnecting, and we're kinking off the flow of that energy flowing through us. And then that energy is just staying stagnant and stuck. And that's where, again, dis-ease can happen, because each of the chakras is connected to different organs through different systems of where they're located in emotions. It's really fascinating. But I
Would
was sensing this when I was taking care of my patients at the hospiil, but no one was talking about it. It's just like, oh, what surgery, what pill do they need? But, pleasure is medicine.
and
And
well, really quick though. So like that's oh, that's the podcast. That's it. Like, geez, that you just threw a lot of game at me. I love that. But like, I guess I'm more like, do you have to be with your clients, or do you have to, like, if I'm somebody who, because I am repressed, right? And I want to seek comfort. Do you let them know, like, hey, I'm on that same level. I'm just as experienced as this, sensually. I know what I'm doing. Do you share that with them, or do you just kind of like to relate to them, to relate to different clients, or are you just, just kind of giving them the facts? In a way, are you just as sensual as the teachings that you preach?
yeah, I am, but one, going through menopause is no joke. I will share that with you. So that's been one thing of
Mm,
getting things like that balanced out. And there hasn't been a lot of research for women in our bodies and with our health and with menopause, unfortunately. And so that's something that, even I'm working on. I can see why older patients would have those challenges, but I am into that. I understand and know how important it is for my body to feel pleasure even when I'm not in relationship, and that I have my tantric practices and my rituals and my things that I do to keep that energy flowing through me. So and I'm using it even as I use it to help me with manifesting things. I use it to
mm,
increase my magnetism, to work on my aura, because we have this aura, this energy field around us. So I'm keeping that my energy flowing and vibrant. And again, it's this life force energy, and our sexual energy. There's so much shame around that, but we were literally created from sexual energy, so there should be no shame in such creation. And it's so wild that our society has been instilled with so much shame. We begin being programmed in our subconscious mind with shame at earliest ages, of even at age 15 months of age, is really wild.
really? That's mad young.
Yeah,
Oh
with
my
that we
gosh.
start experiencing shame at some level. And just even think about whenever we've been in school, how often were we disciplined, or the teachers would control our behavior because we would be afraid that they would shame us or embarrass us or send us to the office or whatever, and that would make us behave, right? Shame has been a big thing even in society to control people.
Mm, you're
Right.
right. You're
And
right.
so if you look at, imagine an upside down triangle, and if anyone that's at home can Google and look at the emotional frequency scale. And as far as emotions, shame is your lowest vibration. the energy of shame is only 20 hertz. It is even lower than anger, fear, or hate. Love and joy is 400 to 500. And so being bliss or orgasmic even is a much higher vibration you can imagine. Being
But
in, very ecstatic states is a very high vibration. But if we are at a lower vibration, we are actually easier to control as a society and as people because we are dimming our light,
that's what I was
and we're
thinking.
playing small. We're playing small. And, like attracts like, and with manifesting things, when we want to attract higher vibration experiences, people, opportunities to us, we need to also raise our vibration to match that. And if we constantly stay in these lower vibration states, we're gonna it's almost, we're tapped into that frequency and we're riding in on that wave. I want you to imagine tuning into even the radio channel, but even a TV channel. When you watch certain TV channels, you have the sports network. You may have a network that shows things like the wealthy people, lifestyles of rich and famous, true crime stories, romance, comedy, right? You have these different things that you're setting and you're tuning your frequency in. And all of the things that you're going to be watching are going to be in those same kind of categories of experiences. So, where are you tuning your frequency into? Because we are energetic beings and we are emitting signals and waves to other people energetically, even if we're not visually or we're not aware of that. So,
Are
I
your
think
clients
a lot of things are really impacting our energy and our environment.
are your
Go ahead.
clients mostly couples, or is it just single people coming to you for help?
It's more singles than couples. I have worked with couples. It can be challenging to work with couples because usually one person will be interested and the other one won't. Like getting them
Fair.
both on board, can be a challenge. And even in those cases, if I work with just one person in that relationship, the relationship begins to thrive because a
Mm.
relationship, again, is just a mirror. It's mirroring back to us the relationship we have with ourselves. And I'm not
Say
saying
that
love,
one more time for the people
yeah,
in the back. That was
yeah,
good.
yeah. So, relationships are just a mirror and they're reflecting back to us the relationship we have within ourselves. And I'm not saying just one person should be responsible for the quality of the relationship and be doing all the work. But when we start to work and fix this relationship we have with ourselves, that's when things start to change and can change in a positive direction our relationships, because then they're reflecting back to us that positive relationship. We start to change the dynamic and it has a ripple effect. So I've even had clients that their partner didn't even know that they were being coached by me, and then they're messaging me and saying, oh my gosh, my partner is finally desiring more, we're having more passion, these are the things that I've really wanted to experience, we're having more intimacy and connection, less stress. My wife isn't nagging me as much. They're desiring me more. It's really incredible. And even with, the female clients that I work with. So, and one of the common misconceptions, and this has delayed my journey by a decade, I thought I needed a lover to begin learning Tantra, but you don't. There's a lot of solo Tantra practices. And just to remind everyone, you are your longest lasting relationship from your first breath to your last breath. And when you can learn to be your own best lover, one, you become a better lover, but you attract better lovers. So stop waiting for someone else to make you feel loved, to validate you, to make you feel wanted, and to, being dependent on the, external.
And so what if you
Start
have
to
a
resource that yourself.
I'm sorry, it's like a low vibration person seeks your advice, seeks your help because they're in a relationship with another low vibration frequency person. And you get them out of their rut. Does the partner not follow suit? And when they do, then they seek you as well, or do they just kind of just fall apart? I don't know. It just feels like because
Yes.
if I'm
That's
getting
a
help from if I'm getting help from you, I want the help. But then if my partner's not on board, why am I with that partner? Does that cause I feel like that's causing problems. I don't know.
Yeah, it can if your partner is not ever willing to change and wants to stay stuck or stay stuck in like a victim mindset and doesn't want to change, then you're going to have to navigate that and see if this is something that you want to continue with, right? And have your
Right.
own healthy boundaries and know your values and what you truly desire. But a lot of times, what I have seen is that when the person I'm working with starts to raise their vibration, it does have a ripple effect with their partner. And they start to have different, experiences together, and they can kind of raise that vibration together. Because again, we also have mirror neurons as a species. And so we're also mirroring that when we're seeing that. So when you see your partner being in an elevated mood and a better mood too, then it helps you to be in a better mood, right? So it
Mm.
can kind of help them get out of that funk. And if they don't and they want to just stay in their misery, then that's just something that you need to decide for yourself if that's, your forever relationship, if you always want to stay that way. So
What's
those are
your most
conversations I help my clients with.
what's your most common problem that you address with people, even if it is couples or solo? Like it's almost like a regular for you now in your business.
Well, one common thing, and I'm actually a recovering people pleaser, and I didn't
Oh.
realize that for a while. And then even a few years ago, I made the connection. I was like, damn, the whole reason I became a Tantra coach is because I'm a people pleaser, because I got so good in bed because I was so big on being a people pleaser. So,
Mm.
like attracts like. So, a lot of times I'm attracting people that are almost like previous versions of myself or very similar to me, also. And I'll attract a lot of people pleasers because they're also like, I want to be the best in bed and I want to, teach me all these tricks. Right. So that's one thing that I can see. And then another thing too is that I will see people that don't feel worthy of love, or kind of looking for love in all the wrong places, or expecting other people to make things better for them, and putting that responsibility on the other person. Like, I need to be around this person to get my needs met, or for me to feel valued or adored or loved. I need it outside. And that's what we've been programmed and conditioned in a society, is that everything external is going to make us feel better. So I need to get the house, the car, the degree, the this, the that, and then I'm going to feel good. But
Mm.
what's the truth is that our inner world is just, our outer world is a reflection of our inner world. So it's really an inside out game. We have to work on the inside first, but we haven't been taught that, because the focus has been, how many facts can we remember? What's your GPA? What grades are you getting? What is your career? How much money is in your bank account? All of these things, the trappings of success that can be a trap. And I'm not saying those things are bad, and money is great, but money is an amplifier. So if someone's really greedy and they get a lot of money, it amplifies that. If someone is very giving and wants to help the world,
That's
then
true.
money can amplify that. So that's all it is an amplifier. But even with that, those things, we have been taught to have so much shame. But when we start to change inside, but we are not taught to look inside, but there's so much buried treasure within all of us, but we've forgotten how powerful we are. And the world has tried to take that power away and have us be consumers. So we constantly feel like we're missing something and lacking, and keep, feeding the machine and trying to get, I need to get this, I need to do that, constantly chasing it in the rat race.
What's your opinion on like as far as like technology goes and like dating apps and Tinder and all those things in relationships? Do you feel like that helps couples or even singles? Because I know like we're all trying to, I guess, essentially what at the end of the day, find love or whatever, right? Supposedly that's what
Yeah.
they tell us. But like with technology now being introduced, you find the wrong kind of love. And then does that add to that negative vibration? Is technology a negative vibration in your field? That's what I'm trying to ask
Yeah. Great question. I've actually used dating apps and have had great success with them. And I've guided my clients on using them, and they've attracted amazing partners. But I've told them, use it as a tool. Everything has to do with the energy of how you're approaching it. What is
you.
my intention of using this? And, I had one client that she wasn't wanting to date. So her coworkers would kind of make her at work get on the app and swipe. And they were kind of making it as a joke, right? As she was approaching it. And I said, the reason you're not getting the results you want is because you're approaching it as a joke, because your friends are pushing you to do it. And then you kind of are laughing about what choices you're making. Get really intentional. And then she met an amazing partner that she had a really beautiful relationship with. So
Get
it's just a
intentional. I like
tool.
that.
It's a tool. So use it. And I think for women, it's really great because before, when I was single and I would be approached by men, I'm not really paying attention or going to be the one hitting on men. And then I would notice that I was attracting a lot of players. I was like, why am I attracting like all these players? Like, what's going I realized there was this pattern, right? And then I thought, oh, because some men, and when I was living in LA many years ago when I was younger, I had modeled and stuff for a while. So a lot of times the men that were brave enough to come up and speak to me and hit on me, they were hitting on anything that moved. You know what I'm saying? There's no
Mm-hmm.
shame in their game. And so then I'm left to choose from those people because I'm not out approaching other people. So then the people that are talking to me and then I'm choosing from those people, right? Where when I use an app, what I would do is notice one, for me, I just personally am not going to want to be with someone that drinks alcohol because of my childhood. And I'm not saying everyone's alcoholic, but just to me, that's just not my thing. Or if they're party too much, social drink every once in a while is okay. But if I notice in the dating app and all their photos that they always are having a drink, I look at the body language if there's other people in the photo with them. If they feel safe, like I met a really amazing man, and I noticed that these women, you could tell that they felt so safe with him, like he was a big brother or something.
Mm.
I look to see, are they wearing shades or can I see their eye contact? And when I look at their eyes, like what am I picking up there? Because the eyes are the windows to the soul. And just seeing how they're communicating, what they're talking about, what their interests are, and how that starts out and go from there. And then it shifts things because then instead of waiting for some man to come and talk to me, now I get to look through and pick who I'm wanting to have conversations with, or if they talk to me, like I can get a feel for them in a sense before I would ever meet with them in person, which to me was to my advantage. And there are men that I dated through dating apps that I've dated, and we've even stayed when we stopped dating. It's great friends. They're really amazing people. I just met this most incredible people, but I used it with that intention. And, I knew my values. I knew what I was looking for and could be very clear on that. And so that's really important. And I will say, most people will think, oh, what I want to learn Tantra again, I need to have a lover to begin. But if you start to do these things while you're single, it's the best time when you're single to do this, because when you start to love yourself and have amazing self love with Tantra, you're going to be able to pick up on people if they are loving people or not, and if how their self-love game is. Like, you're going to notice that, and you're going to start to attract better partners because you start to be a better person for yourself, right? So you're elevating your experience and raising your vibration.
I love that because I truly agree with that. I guess I agree with what you're saying. I just know it is a different thing, and word it a lot differently because like for example, I was in a relationship with a woman and it was good, it was great, but one of the biggest things that kind of like was a question mark was against masturbation. Just hated it. Hated the idea that I once looked at porn. Hated the idea that I touched myself. Would never touch herself in general. I'd be like, hey, like, even joking around, like, hey, you go into the shower, just to see what she would say. No, I don't do that. Why would I do that? That's why I have a man for. And that type of like hostility was like a huge red flag for me. Um, is,
Definitely.
is that a
That's a
red
red
flag in your
flag.
field? Like,
That's definitely a red flag. One thing that I do help men with, though, is I help men overcome premature ejaculation and
mm,
erectile dysfunction. And younger men are having ED because of watching porn at younger and younger ages, because your body becomes
I've heard of
dependent
that.
on
Yeah.
that. So that it is a concern. I used to never be like uptight about porn. I'm like, whatever, but I would want to make sure that it's ethical porn, because you don't want to be taking in the energy of watching someone who's been trafficked and you don't know that. You're watching something like, you just when you're manifesting, you can manifest really powerful with Tantra because you start to understand the energetics of things.
Hmm.
So that's one thing. But if someone is not able to touch themselves or they make that wrong or bad, and there's a lot of shame for women, there's and a lot of pressure women. I've actually dated men that would feel if I was to say that I would masturbated, they would be like, like, oh, am I not pleasing
Yeah.
you or whatever? And they can feel some type of way about it, like as if they're not satisfying me enough, or I'm just, are you a nympho? Like, what's wrong with you? It's crazy. And it's just like, that is a lot of shame. And it must have been programmed into her by her parents of masturbating or what she heard early on. And so that she's made that really bad or wrong. But if you don't know how to connect to your body and to give yourself and experience pleasure with yourself, you're not going to be able to communicate with another person about what things turn you on, and you're not going to learn about your body. And again, you are your longest lasting relationship from your first breath to your last. And if anyone deserves to enjoy your body, it's you. And we are wired with so many amazing nerve endings to experience so much pleasure. Why would we deny ourselves that? So, prioritizing our pleasure is really key. And whenever there's a lot of anger or fear or whatever around those things, definitely a red flag. And it's something I have a healing from sexual shame, a mini course that's helped a lot of people. And my intention for doing this is to help people to raise that vibration and to overcome that, because I can see how it's really held back my clients. Even if they don't feel it, they could feel it in the people around them or their parents shaming them or whatever the case is. And it can hold us back in so many areas of our lives.
Have you ever heard of the missed high five?
No, explain it to me.
Okay, so I don't remember where I heard this from, but it's called the missed high five. You mentioned it with men getting ED at a younger and younger age, which is crazy because I'm 33 and I've had my guy friends, it's like, yo, man, like I just didn't finish, and I was like, I don't know how to help you. Like, what was the problem? And it could be anything from, you're right, I watched porn beforehand, and it wasn't like that. Duh, stupid. It's not gonna be like that. But the missed high five is men at a younger age have a high sexual, that energy at a younger age. We're, teenagers just boobs, boobs, boobs. That's all we can think about. And then women don't mature that way. And they don't mature that way until they're older. So by the time that a woman's at her sexual peak, you know, a man is already way past that. And so, well, he's up here at a young age and she's not. And then so his starts slowly declining and hers increases as she gets older. Missed high five. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, like, is that also very common in your practices as well? Or, I guess I didn't realize how much, like, I can't relate to the women, but on the men's side, we're struggling out here. A lot of men are struggling out here. I don't get it. What happened?
Yeah, and to share, like, for you, what would you say the struggle is that men are having right now?
Um, that's a big one. Wanting like having their cake and eating it too.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's why I mentioned Tinder and things like that. Being on dating apps, having easy access to multiple women at once. Uh, Guilty of it. I've wanted all the women I could handle at one point. Let's see. Infidelity, not believing
Hmm.
in monogamy, having multiple partners at once and at the same time. I feel like that's all these standards are way too high to live to, and then your own like desires wanting that, I feel like fucks with a lot of stuff, fucks us up a
Yeah.
lot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. And I'm because I've been seeing a lot of the challenges that men are having is that more and more men are actually not able to have sex with women right now, because I think a lot
Really?
of women are doing their inner work, and they're kind of raising the standards of what they're interested in
Mm,
experiencing. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
right now there was a study, there was some research, it was in Psychology magazine, Psychology Today. It was about a year and a half ago that there's more and more younger men are, you know, not having sex, and it's not by choice.
That's bold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Elaborate.
Because just because a lot of women are not interested
I mean,
in just doing like the hookups and things like that. They're just like, I'm just not here for that anymore. If it's you don't have something more of quality or value to offer me, then I'm not going to do that. But back in the day, it was like women would be more promiscuous and do certain things. But I think now women are starting to see like, does that really serve them?
but you
You
see
know
what
what
I
I'm
said though?
saying?
Like you said, like on the men's part, we want it, we want it, we want it, and we can't have it. We
Yeah.
want it, and so that we're stuck in our own little cloud of wanting it, wanting. While you guys, like women are on their healing eras and they're doing better for themselves, and then there's dirtbags like us who just, I want it, but I can't have it. And so I think that's where the
So
big,
frustrating.
not even frustrating, like that's where the whole problem comes from of like those expectations. Then you leads to porn. It's sort of like a whole like a whole domino effect of just negativity. Men are just low vibrations. It sounds like you have your work cut out for you. Like how do
But
you do
men
it?
are really amazing. Like I had my healing with Tantra with a lover that had studied Tantra and mastered it and had my awakening through an amazing Tantra experience. And I I felt like I had like a soulgasm and it rocked me to the core of my being. And I had my third eye open, my crown chakra open. I had amazing, just like the sexual healing Marvin Gaye would sing about. And I experienced that through being with a man that understood these things. But unfortunately, most men don't know about this type of lovemaking. And men are being dumbed down by what's possible for them by watching porn and adult movies. And they think that's what women want. And it's not what women desire. And so now women are starting to say, I don't want to settle for that. I would just rather be single than put up with these certain things because I think there is a lot of infidelity and things out there. So like why put myself out there that way? And if men were able to make love in this other way and have sex this way that I'm talking about with, tantra and with intimacy and really connecting and lasting longer and being able to last as long as you want. And men can be multi-orgasmic too. It's really amazing. And if they were approached lovemaking that way, they would see that women desire sex even probably more and have a bigger drive than they have. But women are not desiring this type of sex that has been modeled after what's been learned in porn because we never got the right sex education. And that's what's really tripped us up. And so, one of the things that I had a client that he was in his 60s and he had ED and he wasn't able to make love to his wife. They've been married over 30 years and even Viagra was failing him. When I started working with him, just within a few weeks of us working together, their sex life began to improve. After about 6 months, I helped him with a lot of other things to grieve the loss of his mother, realize a familial wound where he thought his mother never loved him, and he realized that she did. He was able to cry for the first time after his mother died during one of
That's
our
related to his
sessions.
sex life?
Yeah. It's a lot of, there's a energetic too of a lot of men that have ED can also have what's called a mother wound is really
Mm.
connected. It's really amazing. It's kind of a wild connection, but it's definitely the connection has been made there. And that wasn't the whole reason why, but he had these other things that he was working on. And there's so much pressure on men to be the protector, the provider, the strong one. And I said, your wife really wants to know who you are more and what's going on. Don't always like hide your feelings, like share with her. And so they began to have more intimacy. And then one of the things that I teach my male clients how to do is, and just through online, through Zoom coaching, and we're both all dressed and I give them the techniques and they go try it on their own and then report back and we continue to grow from there. And I tell them the next things that will be to benefit them. But, after about 6 months, he shared with me one day, he says, oh, on Monday, before work, I made love to my wife for an hour and she had 6 to 8 orgasms and I was ready to go again the next day. He goes, she was joking with him and saying, now I need to work with Dominique so I can keep up with you. And he says, I feel so much power in my penis. I wish I discovered this 15 years ago. And he said, now me and my wife were having better sex in our 60s than we did when we were in our 30s because they've been together for over
Wow.
30 years. It was really incredible. And so there's so much more that you're capable of experiencing that you are even aware of. And yeah, so you can have a higher drive and can be multi-orgasmic, and you can be charged up with your orgasms instead of feeling drained the way you're constantly draining your life force energy when you're frequently ejaculating, and then that's throwing you off from being successful or manifesting or having the magnetism, because you're when you're ejaculating so frequently you lose life force energy. If you look at and Taoist practices that the Chinese emperors would use, which is very similar to Tantra. And they would do these practices. And the Taoist belief is that the reason the lifespan on average for females is longer than males is that men lose their life force energy, their chi energy through frequent ejaculation. Women, we get charged up with orgasms. So that's why after men will orgasm, they quickly fall asleep, because now you've all that fluid that you released that could have created how many millions of lives, right? All that you need to, you have to replenish that.
Yeah.
And women will be more talkative after sex, right? We get charged up by it. We get drained of our life force energy through menstruation, pregnancy, and childbirth. Those are the things that are draining for us. And so, yeah, that they believe that's why women usually on average live longer. So men, you're really draining yourself and your life force energy and your full potential if you're constantly ejaculating. And that's why I will teach my clients how to have non-ejaculatory orgasms, where you can orgasm without ejaculating and then be just as charged up by it. And it also will help you be more successful in the world because you have more energy, more oomph, more drive. Just think of, just like Muhammad Ali, he would not have sex for about 6 weeks before a match because he had to have that extra oomph, to
Yeah, you're
really go
right.
in there, right? And and so it's really important when you have big goals, when you are pursuing a passion, your purpose, it's really important to stay dialed in with this and to have that life force energy to go in and really, get things done that you want to have, that you want to experience. And if you're familiar with the book by Napoleon Hill published in the 1930s called Think and Grow Rich, this was research of all the most the wealthiest people during that time. And Napoleon Hill was interviewing everyone and trying to see what are the common denominators of things that the most successful people were doing, like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, all these people. So he wrote that book. And imagine how taboo it is to talk about sex now. You can imagine almost 100 years ago when this book was published. So he has a chapter titled The Mystery of Sex. And inside that chapter, it's chapter 11, and he talks about sexual transmutation. And that is your life force energy, your creation energy. You don't just have to create a human life with it, you can create your life with it. How to channel and use that turn on and channel that towards your goals and your dreams and your purpose of what you're doing to be successful. And of course, it couldn't go into all the techniques, but these are the things I teach my clients. And that's what Tantra does. And even Nikola Tesla, he spent time in India and he was really great at mastering energy. And I believe that he learned that sexual transmutation because he was single most of his life and he was a handsome man when he was younger and he never got married. But I think he was really focusing how he was using his sexual energy so that he could do the inventions and all the creativity and the things that he was doing.
And that makes sense. And a more modern take on that in Forbes magazine, they did say something very similar, also like taking cold showers, things like that. There's a lot of ways that these big CEO types they do that, and one of them was, taking multiple ejaculations out of the equation. It's just further validation that there's a lot here to what you're teaching, and I'm here for it. I just have another question though. You mentioned intimacy. When you have a client and you talk to them, be intimate with your wife or be intimate with your partner. What does intimacy mean to you? And what are you trying to convey when you say intimacy? Because that's just such a big word. Sometimes I feel like I don't know what intimacy can be.
Yeah, yeah, such a great question. Thanks for asking that. and Tantra, a big practice for intimacy is eye gazing because eyes are the windows to the soul. Think about how often we can be in bed with someone and be butt ass naked. I've done a bunch of freaky positions, but it's like, oh my gosh, don't look at me in the eyes. Oh my gosh, that's like too intense. Like, what are you trying to do? And people can feel really uncomfortable and awkward with that. Fear of being seen. We're so used to wearing a mask. We don't want people to truly see us, right? So intimacy is into me, you see. Eye gazing practices are really can be an edgy practice for some people, but it can help you to really connect on a deeper level with your partner. We have been taught through, especially through watching adult videos, how to have sex through superficial, skin to skin, level of a connection. Egos, we're doing it for ego validation, a notch on the belt. I even did that. I was very much in my masculine energy before Tantra, and I behaved very much like Samantha on Sex in the City back in the day. And Tantra changed things up for me. But, I was doing that, and we want a soulmate, but we don't know how to mate, like mating. Think of when animals mate, soul mating. Do we know how to do that? We don't. We do not know how to make love to someone's soul or to have depth of connection and presence with someone. We don't know how to really truly be with someone. It's either performative or this or that. And copying something we've seen in a video that we've seen, a movie that we think, but we don't even check in with our partner sometimes to see like what do they really desire, and can we share emotions with them, or is it just surface level? So if we're in the shallow waters and having superficial sex, but then we are wondering why do my relationships suck, why is everything so superficial, why is there no depth here? Because you don't know how to go deep. Can you
Mm.
make love to someone's soul? Can you fully be present with them in that moment and make love to them as like an honoring and a devotion, and how much pleasure you can share back and forth and connection, breathing together, sensing into each other's energy and turn on, and working with that to have really heightened states of ecstatic bliss that can be deeply healing. But we have been denied that. We've denied ourselves that. And the principles and the practices I teach my clients, ancient wisdom from over 5,000 years ago. And the emperors and the rulers in the time did not let the common people know these practices either, because they realized how empowering they were. And when you're trying to rule a society of people, you don't want them to be in your power, in their power. You want to be powerful, but not everyone else to be powerful. So I have a lot of people from India that reach out to me because even though a lot of tantric practices, they come from the lineages from India, there's also Buddhist lineages of Tibetan Buddhist lineages of Tantra as well. And that wisdom was kept from them. They don't know that. It's been hidden.
Do you feel it's much of a challenge, if anything, like for someone who at one point had that soul gasm with somebody, and even with themselves, and had that high frequency, losing it, are you able to get it back? Because if you have something so great and amazing, but for whatever reason happens, you lose it, does that become more difficult to get back because now you have to work twice as hard for it if you want it?
No, you don't really lose it. Now, if you're with someone that doesn't know how to do these things, then, there was a time where I was able to have these experiences. And then I dated someone that he wanted to learn how to do that, but he wasn't showing up and doing the practices on his own. And I'm a coach, but when I'm dating you, I'm not trying to coach you because that's just not sexy, right? So I'd be
Yeah.
like, here's the resources. This is what you need to read. These are the tools. And and here's some of the videos that I have of things that I've learned that you can watch. And he wouldn't show up for himself to do the work. And so our sex life began to really suck. And at the time I was so frustrated. I was like, I I flat out told him, I was like, I'm a sex coach and I'm being with you. I'm really not liking sex.
Oh my God.
Like, I don't, and I was going through menopause. So I was just like, man, am I losing my mojo? Like, what is going on here?
Hmm.
And it was just the way he was approaching with his sexual energy and the way he was doing it. And, I had talked to one of my exes about it. My ex was like, "You're like a sex god. Like, what is this person talking about?" And I said, he's never seen that side of me because he can't even last long enough for even us to even go the distance to go to that place. He's never witnessed that of me. And he would tell me, like, I need you to, like, to really bring it and bring the fire and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, dude, like, you're the one who should, like, bring the fire and get things going. In a way, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So
Yes.
I was just like, what are you
Yes.
talking about? And so it was really annoying. And then whenever we stopped seeing one another, we had a really healthy relationship that was healing in other ways and dynamics that was really healing, but the passion just like was fizzling out. And he was trying to tell me when we ended up like, well, this has been the best relationship I've had and the most healing. I think that we should move forward and not go with any of our exes. I think he was just intimidated that I would go back to an old lover. And I was thinking, of course I'm going to go back with an old lover because one, I've been in menopause. I don't know, is this something with my hormones? Like, is it me? Like, I'm starting to doubt myself now. And I'm not going to go be with a new lover who then, if it's the same challenges again, because they don't know how to do the things that I know how to do, I still wouldn't know. So I was like, no, I have to go back. I waited a few months after being broken up. And I was like, I have to go back to this person that I have amazing experiences with and see if I still had it. And when I was with him, I had these incredible experiences. And he didn't get to finish. I just stopped at one point when I was done. I had several orgasms and I just sat there and I started to cry. And I said to myself, never again will you settle for mediocre sex. Never
Mm.
again. Like, to myself, a promise I made to myself. And my lover knew that I wasn't crying or mad at him. And he says, wow, like he could still sense the energy because he does his chakra works and his stuff. And he was like, he wasn't trying to shame me. He's like, I could feel like that guy's stuck energy in you. That guy was whack. Like that was some whack ass energy. uh he wasn't trying to make me feel bad about it, but he was like, because we had been open when we had dated before, and I would have other lovers sometimes, and it was never a thing for us, and he was never judgy about it, or would never shame me or anything about it. But that other guy, it was just off. It was just off, and
Does that
so
does that put a
we,
little jumble on things though? Like, do men get like if they know what you do they get intimidated by you?
of course,
Like
of course.
I'm like I swipe right on you on Tinder and then I see I look you up and I'm like, oh fuck. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, my last serious relationship that I was with was, and because you're saying the missing high five thing, I tend to date men that are much younger than me because older women can have a really high drive. And you know, one of my more recent exes that was with for over a year, I was telling we had amazing sex, and he's much younger than me, and he's probably like 25 years younger than me or something, because
hell yeah.
I'll be 56 on Halloween. So when we started dating when he was like 28 and a few years back, and I'll still take him as a lover now after we had a 2-year break after I was like celibate for 2 years. But then I had been with someone else again and it was whack. And I was just like, okay, I was like, we won't get deep in a relationship. We have a lot of love and respect for one another and care, but I enjoy myself with him, and we have really incredible sex. And when I was telling him, I said, that's one thing that even though I'm a sex coach and a tantra coach, I never had to share or show you anything or teach you anything. You're already such a great lover. I never had to, you know, give him any guidance. I mean, it's not impossible, but he can sense my energy. He's an empath and he can kind of read the energy of my body, and he'll understand. And sometimes he'll do things with me and I'm just like, wow, like, you just tried something I wasn't even cluing into my body that's what I needed in the moment. But he's really able to connect in and tap in. And that's what's super needed. And then the other lover that I had, that when I was wanting to make sure that I hadn't lost my mojo, he had found a book that his dad had when he was a teenager about these ancient practices, and he was self taught. And so I had really incredible experiences with him. But these experiences will make it to where I'm just not, if it's someone only knows how to have like regular, quickie, no depth, egoic, you know what I'm saying, performative sex, I could pass. I would rather be celibate. I can do my own amazing self pleasure rituals myself. I can't be bothered with it.
Wow, that is a lot of game you just threw at us, and I appreciate that. We're running down time here. I love what you're
Yeah.
throwing at me. But I just one last thing. I'm just super curious because I know now that I know it's very intimidating to have sex with you, and I know it's very intimidating to even just, be a part of that. But and the missed high five, I do think that's a horrible, such a horrible thing to happen to guys. But you know uh just I want you to talk a little bit about the orgasm, the mind orgasm, that that deeper orgasm than just physical. Um, for people who don't have it yet, how would you describe that? How does one even like explain that to your clients? Like, this is kind of what you're supposed to feel, or this is kind of how it's supposed to be if you're doing my practices right and you're doing my coaching right.
Yeah, a lot of it is even just energy orgasms. Like I can be with a lover and they cannot even touch me and I can be orgasmic. So I am very
Mm.
orgasmic. You know, it's not like a challenge to be with me. But you just have to be like I need someone that also is connected and understands their energy, but just feeling full body waves of pleasure. And I'll have my male clients will say they can feel their orgasm now from the top of their head down to their big toe. But you're so used to keeping the orgasm just localizing your genital area that you don't really know how to use other techniques to like bring it all through your body and
Mm.
energizing your cells. And men are amazing and it can be incredible lovers. I had my sexual awakening and my healing because of a man. So I'm not here to bash men. I'm really here to help and be the guide and help men to understand how truly powerful you are and to stop selling yourself short and going for the low hanging fruit and know that there's so much more that you're capable of. And when you can tap into that, your whole world will open up for you. And the dream woman you would want to have would love to be with you. You know what I mean? You're going to magnetize so many incredible things to you whenever you tap into this true essence and power that is available to everyone. We just have to learn these things and you definitely can. It just takes some time, but you're worth it.
I love that. I'm sticking to that. I'm keeping that one actually. I'm gonna put that one in my pocket because I needed that one as well. Now before we head off here, I want you to just shamelessly plug all this information. Where can people find you? Where can people get a hold of you? I want people to find you. Guys, if you guys hear me and you were my male friends, figure it out, guys. You should not be coming quickly. Like there's a whole like, please educate these people.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you understand how to have sex like this, you know, the frustration can be for men. Like, I want the woman to have desire sex as much as I do. But if you have that type of sex, they will, your desires will start to match. So you can find me. My website is yestantra.com and it's YES and then TANTRA.com. My YouTube is Yes Tantra as well. And I put informational videos there. And on my website, you can find my other social media links too. And I also have a quiz on my website where you can look into understanding what intimacy blocks or emotional blocks you may have and see if you're ready for Tantra. And there's a free quiz there.
I'm
And I
gonna try it.
encourage you to check out.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
let
do
me
it.
know. Yeah,
I'm gonna do it.
message me and let me know what your thoughts are after you do that. And it's really incredible. And just to remember how powerful you are, the world, you know, I don't think it's any accident that society has tried to have us dim our light, to feel shame and to disempower ourselves. I mean, why is porn so readily available? They're not doing that because it's going to make you have your very best life. They're going to do that because you're easier to control, because you're not self actualizing and you're draining your life force energy. So just realize and, you know, not to shame about it, but just to know like where are you giving your power away? And it's time for you to take your power back.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much for taking your time to talk to me. I definitely feel very enlightened now, learning a lot of things from you. And we just scratched the surface, everyone. And this is literally just the tip. So thank you again, Dominique, for sharing all your insight
Yes.
with me. And I hope to learn more. I'm actually going to, after we're done here, I'm not even kidding, guys. I'm going to take that test. I'm very curious
Awesome.
to see. And you're just going to look at it and be like, damn, he's fucked.
No, but it's okay. Like we all, I had my challenges too. Don't ever think that. Just be curious and be like, oh, okay, I can lean into this. And this is where I can have more expansion and more growth. So none of us are perfect. We've all been on our journeys. So it's just to be curious and see what else is possible for you.
Perfect. I'm going to do that. Thank you guys for listening to
All right.
Down the Rabbit Hole podcast. Thank you, Dominique. And thank you, everyone. Subscribe and like and subscribe. Follow her pages. I'll send the links down in the info box. But again, thank you so much for your time.
Yes. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right.
Blessings.
Hello. Please leave a message after the tone.
Bro, what the fuck? You still have my sister for your voicemail? You need to change that shit. Because when somebody calls you for a job opportunity, they're gonna be like, so is it sushi or you're crazy? um, bro, this is crazy.
Lois, I literally cannot.
We can't hang up. What's the phone?
Hey, sweet cakes, it's me. I was just calling to let you know how much I really do miss you, babe. I've been thinking of you all day, and I hope that you're having a great day, because I know how you told me how much your coworkers are annoying. It's okay, babe, because I know you're gonna get through it. But I really do hope you have a good day, and I was thinking of making you your favorite pasta. What do you think? But babe, I really miss you. Please give me a call when you get the chance. I love you.
You're so cute. You're so cute. Damn, Luis, you just keep giving me challenge after challenge, and you know I'm down. um, but I'm interested in all the cochinadas que quieres hacerme. I'm like curious about it. What can it be? Well, let's just find out, I guess. All right, I'll talk to you soon.